Evelyn Hartwell, a billionaire known for her sharp business mind and unmatched wealth, stood silently before her sprawling mansion gates. The world saw power, poise, and influence. But beneath the polished exterior lay a mother's grief, heavy and unrelenting. Her only son, Lucas, had passed unexpectedly, leaving an emptiness that no fortune could fill. Today, she decided she would visit his grave alone. No assistance, no cameras, no interruptions, just her and the memory of her boy. As she drove through quiet streets lined with autumn trees, each crunch beneath her tires echoed the melancholy of her heart, a rhythm of sorrow she could not escape. The cemetery lay shrouded in mist, tombstones standing like silent sentinels. Evelyn's heels clicked softly against the gravel path as a cool wind whispered through the trees. The distant call of a crow added to the solemn hush, and leaves rustled in hushed sympathy. She approached the spot where Lucas rested, a freshly placed bouquet trembling in the breeze. But then, through the fog, movement caught her agile figure kneeling beside a small child. For a moment, time slowed. Curiosity and unease prickled her skin. Who was here, sharing this sacred silence with her, in this private moment of mourning? There she was, a young black waitress, head bowed, tears streaming down her cheeks. In her arms, a small child clutched a worn teddy bear, sobbing quietly. Evelyn's breath caught. She had expected solitude, perhaps only the echo of her own grief. Instead, raw, unfiltered sorrow confronted her. The woman's shoulders shook with emotion, her voice cracking as she whispered words Evelyn could not hear from this distance. The contrast was striking. Evelyn's controlled composure, honed through years of boardrooms and public appearances, against this raw, human display of pain. She had always known grief was universal, yet seeing it so intimately in a stranger, so unprotected, unsettled her. Confusion, mixed with curiosity. Why was this woman here? Who was she mourning? And why did the child accompany her in this sacred, private place? Questions crowded Evelyn's mind, yet something compelled her to step closer. Evelyn slowed her steps, taking in the scene. The woman's hands trembled as she wiped tears from her face, her knuckles white around the child's small shoulder. The child's innocence was stark against the grief surrounding them. Tiny eyes glistened, cheeks wet, a soft whimper escaping. Evelyn's instincts stirred, some protective, some inquisitive. Why here? Why now? Each movement suggested a story, fragments of pain she couldn't yet understand. A strange pull nudged at her chest, one she couldn't ignore. Something about the combination of the woman's raw grief and the child's vulnerability beckoned her forward, breaking the barrier of her usual reserve, urging her into a moment she hadn't planned but couldn't resist. Evelyn paused. A few feet from the woman, battling an internal storm, part of her insisted on retreat, on respecting the stranger's privacy. But another part, a deeper maternal part, wanted to reach out. Memories of Lucas flashed before her eyes. His laughter, his last birthday, the warmth of his small hand in hers. Would it be selfish to intrude, or compassionate? Her heart ached with uncertainty, the silence of the cemetery amplifying every heartbeat. She inhaled sharply, torn between grief and empathy. The audience could feel her struggle. The poised billionaire, frozen by her own humanity, teetering on the edge of connection or retreat. Finally, Evelyn spoke, her voice soft but steady. "Excuse me? Are you okay?" The woman flinched, looking up, startled, but didn't hide her tears. "I'm fine," she whispered, though the shaking of her shoulders betrayed the lie. Evelyn knelt slightly, lowering herself to the child's eye level. "I didn't mean to intrude," she continued. "I just noticed you." The waitress's voice trembled. I'm just visiting someone I loved," she admitted, glancing at the small child. Evelyn nodded, heart tightening. The child clutched a ragged bear closer. Tiny hints emerged her presence here was no coincidence. There was a reason she was drawn to this grave. Evelyn didn't yet know the full story, but the suspense thickened. Something about the waitress's quiet dignity, the sorrow etched into her every movement, made Evelyn sense that this encounter would change everything. The child peeked curiously at Evelyn, eyes wide, unsure of this new figure looming over them. A soft, hesitant smile formed on the billionaire's face. "Hello there," she whispered, voice gentle, almost afraid to startle the little one. The child's tiny hand reached out, brushing against hers. A moment of connection that transcended wealth, status, and grief. The innocence of the child softened the tension, humanizing the entire scene. Evelyn's heart ached for both the child and the woman, bridging the distance between their worlds. For a fleeting moment, the billionaire and the stranger shared mutual understanding, bound by the universal language of sorrow and compassion. Finally, the waitress spoke more, her voice quivering but gaining strength. "This is my son's father's grave," she admitted, glancing toward the stone with trembling hands. Evelyn's brows furrowed curiosity and shock intertwined. "I never got the chance to explain. I just wanted him to know we were here," she continued, a trembling tear tracing her cheek. The suspense was palpable. Evelyn's mind raced, connecting threads she couldn't yet see. There was a personal connection here, hidden beneath layers of grief, longing, and secrecy. Something profound was about to surface. Evelyn's pulse quickened, the cool cemetery air now electric with tension. She leaned slightly forward, waiting, listening, sensing that a truth was on the verge of revelation, one that would shatter assumptions and leave both women forever changed. Evelyn froze. Her hand pressed against her chest as disbelief flooded her. Her eyes stung, tears threatening to spill, and her heart raced uncontrollably. Guilt gnawed at her head. She assumed too much about people, about life, about pain. Empathy surged, raw and unfiltered, as she realized the weight this woman carried. The polished veneer of wealth, the sharp edges of business, suddenly felt hollow against the simplicity of human suffering. She struggled to find words, her usual confidence failing her. Silence settled between them, filled only by the wind through the trees and the child's soft breathing. As Evelyn reconsidered everything she had believed about privilege, loss, and connection, the waitress took a shaky breath. Finally, sharing her full story. "My son. He was your son's best friend," she said, voice trembling. "Lucas. He saved my boy from an accident years ago. They were inseparable, but then the tragedy happened. I wanted to thank him, to tell him he mattered." Evelyn's eyes widened, disbelief and awe battling within her. The pieces clicked together, the child, the grief, the quiet presence here at this grave. Tears streamed freely down her face as she realized the depth of the connection. The moment was shocking, a convergence of lives she had never imagined intersecting in this sacred space. The emotional weight lifted slightly as understanding and compassion replaced shock. Here, wealth and status were meaningless. Only the shared love for the lost child remained, binding them in a fragile, profound empathy. Evelyn took a deep breath, feeling the enormity of the lesson unfolding before her. Life was fragile, precious, and painfully unpredictable. Loss was universal, cutting through wealth, status, and privilege alike. She glanced at the child, small hands clutching the worn bear, and then at the waitress, raw grief softened by courage. In that moment, she recognized her own vulnerability, her inability to shield herself from the pain of losing a loved one. A bridge formed between them, not of money, influence, or fame but of humanity. Shared sorrow became connection, a quiet bond that neither time nor circumstance could sever. Evelyn knelt gently, placing a single hand on the child's shoulder. "We'll honor their memory," she whispered softly. She handed the waitress an envelope, discreet but meaningful help for the child's future. A gesture of compassion without fanfare. The woman's eyes widened, lips trembling, as she accepted it, speechless. Evelyn's heart swelled. Humility replaced pride. This act was simple, yet powerful, a silent promise to protect, remember, and care. Suspense lingered in the air. What would come next? But the gesture alone spoke volumes, revealing the billionaire's emotional growth, her willingness to connect beyond societal barriers, and the quiet power of empathy in the face of grief. The breeze stirred the leaves as Evelyn stood, preparing to leave. She glanced once more at the woman and child, sharing a look heavy with unspoken understanding. The child waved shyly, a small smile breaking through sorrow, and the waitress nodded in gratitude. Each step Evelyn took felt lighter, yet her heart remained tethered to this encounter. They parted ways, transformed, bonded by grief, compassion, and a shared, fleeting miracle of understanding. The cemetery returned to quiet stillness, but the moment lingered in the air, leaving traces of hope, empathy, and the reminder that life's surprises often come when least expected. Evelyn walked slowly back to her car, the crisp wind brushing her face. Thoughts of wealth, influence, and achievement seemed suddenly distant, replaced by the fragile beauty of human connection. She thought of Lucas, of the child, and of the courage it took to grieve openly. Every step resonated with a newfound humility, a recognition that love and loss surpass all material measures. As she drove away, the cemetery faded into the mist, yet the lesson remained vivid. Life's true value lies not in fortune,